In this scorched Cretaceous land, a predator once ruled with unmatched speed and violent precision. From drifting red dust emerges an adult Utahraptor, revealing a powerful frame shaped by relentless survival. Each step drives a 35-centimeter sickle claw into the earth, a weapon designed for cutting tendon and ending movement. Amber eyes and blade-shaped teeth give Utahraptor precise depth vision, perfect for targeting prey across rough terrain. Powerful thigh muscles and filament-like feathers reveal a lineage bridging ancient predators and early avian traits. Leaning forward on rocky ground, Utahraptor forms a calculated hunting stance, ready to strike with explosive force. As the jaws unfold, razor-edged teeth appear, built to slice deeply rather than crush, maximizing lethal efficiency. When Utahraptor accelerates, clouds of red dust trail behind, revealing a speed uncommon for a predator this size. X-ray views expose the hip and leg bones, forming a powerful lever system, enabling devastating jumping attacks. From the cliff's edge, Utahraptor surveys the valley below, claiming a domain shaped by brutal prehistoric trials. Red Cliffs Valley stands as a blistering Cretaceous stronghold, where scorching winds carve the land into a vast natural battlefield. Layered sandstone reveals over 125 million years of shifting climates, marking this region as a survivor of ancient environmental extremes. Here, intense heat and seasonal droughts shape a semi-arid ecosystem where only the toughest prehistoric life could endure. A narrow seasonal stream cuts through the cliffs, becoming a vital lifeline that draws countless herbivores across this harsh terrain. Cycads, conifers, and towering ferns anchor the valley, forming the sparse yet resilient vegetation of the early Cretaceous landscape. Large iguanodons roam these river edges, grazing heavily and supplying the region's apex predators with a reliable source of energy. Swift dinosaurs weave through tall grasses, their speed essential for survival in a valley where ambush predators dominate the shadows. Generations of herbivores follow ancient migration paths here, leaving deep tracks that mark this valley as a crossroads of life. Claw marks carved into stone reveal the presence of Utahraptors, declaring this territory fiercely guarded by deadly precision. From this high cliff, every stream, trail, and prey route is visible, making Red Cliffs Valley the most strategic hunting ground in the region. On the northern cliffs, a seasoned Utahraptor stands guard, shaped by years of survival in this harsh Cretaceous land. The northern pack moves with silent discipline, every step placed with purpose, a strategy refined through countless hunts. Scarred bodies reveal battles long past, marking this pack as veterans shaped by injury, adaptation, and persistence. A northern raptor inspects a scent trail, analyzing wind currents with keen depth vision evolved for precise tracking. Working as one, the northern pack scans the valley, each member holding a defined role within their coordinated formation. Younger members watch closely, learning tactics passed down through generations of experienced, calculated predators. Along red stones, the pack communicates with subtle gestures, relying less on noise and more on shared instinct. Moving through sparse forests, the northern pack avoids unnecessary energy loss, conserving strength for decisive moments. Each step reflects an understanding of this terrain, a mastery gained by surviving drought, heat, and rival predators. From above, the northern leader senses a shift in the valley's rhythm, a warning carried by dust and distant echoes. Far to the south, rising dust reveals a larger, younger pack driven not by discipline, but by raw, chaotic aggression. The southern pack swarms violently, each member competing fiercely for space, dominance, and every scrap of food. Conflicts erupt constantly, as young raptors lash out with sickle claws sharpened through relentless internal battles. A wounded Dryosaurus becomes a chaotic feeding ground, showcasing the southern pack's ruthless, uncontrolled hunger. Territorial disputes break out even without prey, as each young raptor seeks to assert power through violent outbursts. Using sheer numbers, the southern pack overwhelms smaller prey, relying on speed and brute force over planning. Weaker members receive no protection, abandoned the moment they fall behind, exposing the pack's harsh hierarchy. From the dust emerges Bloodcrest, a young but vicious leader marked by a crimson crest and unmistakable brutality. Bloodcrest enforces dominance through violence, punishing any challenger with swift, merciless precision. The southern pack devours prey in frenzied disarray, each bite fueled by desperation and relentless competition. Even among themselves, power struggles erupt, pushing the pack into constant cycles of dominance and submission. One final roar from Bloodcrest forces the pack into uneasy obedience, a unity built solely on fear. On the northern cliffs, Razorclaw observes this rising threat, understanding the challenge approaching from below. Far below, Bloodcrest scans the towering cliffs, recognizing the strategic value of the high ground ahead. Both packs advance toward Red Cliffs Valley, one with discipline, the other with fury, destined to collide in battle. Red Cliffs Ridge fell silent as cold winds carved across the stone, signaling a long-awaited clash rising on the horizon. The northern Utahraptor group sensed distant tremors, each vibration warning that a powerful southern force was drawing near. Razorclaw stepped forward onto the ridge, slate-black form steady in the wind, ready for the moment that would define the valley. The northern Utahraptor group formed a perfect arc, each slate-black shape bracing against the rising southern heat flooding the ridge. Below the ridge, a towering column of red dust rose violently, warning Razorclaw that the southern Utahraptor group was now within range. Through the burning dust emerged the southern Utahraptor group, brick-red bodies glowing fiercely beneath the harsh southern sunlight. Bloodcrest advanced through swirling dust, crimson crest blazing as the southern Utahraptor group gathered behind in rising anticipation. The southern Utahraptor group spread wide across the ridge, chaotic energy building as rolling dust wrapped around their charging forms. The groups closed the distance, northern cold colliding with southern heat as tension thickened the dusty air around the ridge. At last, Razorclaw and Bloodcrest faced each other, slate-black frost confronting brick-red fire in a moment carved by fate. In Razorclaw's eye, the silhouette of Bloodcrest flickered through drifting dust, marking the first spark of the coming war. Bloodcrest studied the northern formation, reading each stance as fierce winds forced red dust into spiraling waves around the ridge. Both groups froze in absolute stillness, their shared silence heavier than the storm, as if the ridge itself waited for the first strike. Bloodcrest stepped forward through rising dust, signaling the southern Utahraptor group to tighten formation as heat pressed upward. Razorclaw held firm, prompting the northern Utahraptor group to lock together, slate-black forms bracing for the inevitable collision. Bloodcrest summoned a young fighter from the southern Utahraptor group, flame-bright feathers flaring as the challenger advanced. The young southern fighter charged with explosive speed, claws striking stone as the ridge trembled under the violent acceleration. Razorclaw shifted with practiced calm, reading the attacker's path as swirling dust revealed the moment for a perfect counter. The young challenger leapt high, sickle claw slicing air, but struck only drifting dust, swept aside by the cold northern wind. Razorclaw countered instantly, a brutal shoulder strike sending the young southern fighter spinning across the jagged ridge. The fallen challenger slid through red dust as the southern Utahraptor group erupted in furious roars, shaking the ridge beneath them. Razorclaw surged forward, hooking the challenger's leg with precision and slamming the brick-red body against the cold stone. The fallen fighter lay still as Bloodcrest observed sharply, recognizing Razorclaw's power while the southern group roared in rage. Razorclaw stood firm against the wind, while the northern Utahraptor group tightened into a solid wall, ready for the unavoidable battle. Bloodcrest unleashed a thunderous roar, sending the southern Utahraptor group charging forward as the long-awaited war finally ignited. Two forces stood divided by swirling dust, the ridge trembling as both Utahraptor groups prepared for the brutal war to begin. Claws striking stone echoed through the ridge, each impact a warning that no Utahraptor on this battlefield would leave unchanged. Razor Claw and Bloodcrest locked gazes through drifting dust, their breath shaping the final calm before violence shattered the ridge. Both Utahraptor groups advanced one step, the stone beneath them cracking as destiny pushed the first wave of warriors forward. A brick-red hunter from the southern Utahraptor group surged ahead, its approach marking the first spark that would ignite the war. A slate-black Utahraptor intercepted the strike, claws flashing as the first clash broke the fragile silence hanging over the ridge. Dust exploded around the fighters as the line broke, revealing chaos spreading like wildfire between both advancing Utahraptor groups. Teeth met flesh as brick-red jaws snapped towards slate-black armor, each strike carving deeper tension into the battle's opening moments. Roars collided across the ridge, a storm of fury rising as both Utahraptor groups committed fully to the violence surging between them. A slate-black Utahraptor leapt onto a brick-red foe, claws digging into shoulder bone as both bodies rolled violently through dust. A sweeping tail cracked against stone as brick-red hunters attempted to break the northern Utahraptor group's defensive arc. Hanging over the ridge's edge, a slate-black fighter clung to fractured stone as dust rained into the abyss below. A brick-red attacker lunged forward, but a desperate counterkick sent its body crashing backward in a burst of shattered dust. Razor Claw and Bloodcrest clashed at last, leaders striking with force heavy enough to bend stone beneath their impact. Shoulder met bone as both leaders wrestled for dominance, each collision shaking dust loose from the ridge's highest stones. Three brick-red hunters surged in to aid Bloodcrest, only to be intercepted by two slate-black warriors exploding from the dust. A brick-red Utahraptor launched high, sickle claw lifted for a killing strike as breath, dust, and heat warped the air around it. The target rolled aside, jaws snapping shut on a hind limb, dragging the brick-red body across stones carved by countless battles. A violent kick from the trapped hunter cracked against the attacker's jaw, sending dust spiraling upward as both struggled for ground. Bodies collided near the cliff's edge, claws screeching across stone as the battle threatened to spill into the deadly drop below. A brick-red Utahraptor slipped from the ledge, clinging desperately as broken stone showered down the abyss beneath its dangling form. Another brick-red fighter rushed to aid it, but a slate-black warrior struck sideways, tail and claws halting the attempted rescue. Bloodcrest leapt high, sickle claw carving the air as it descended toward Razor Claw in a strike meant to end the northern leader. Razor Claw countered with a brutal head strike, sending Bloodcrest staggering into its own warriors as dust erupted around them. Six Utahraptor became locked in a brutal melee, claws tearing dust, teeth slamming bone, every heartbeat swallowed by violence. A sweeping tail from a slate-black fighter struck a brick-red hunter off its stance, sending it sliding through gravel and shattered stone. Regaining balance, the fallen brick-red hunter lunged toward Razor Claw, sickle claw raised as dust spiraled beneath its renewed charge. Razor Claw countered with a spinning leap, hind claws sinking into the attacker's flank before slamming it against the stone floor. Bloodcrest roared with fury, driving the southern Utahraptor group into a unified charge aimed at shattering the northern defensive wall. Both Utahraptor groups collided in a final explosive rush, dust swallowing the ridge as the largest battle of their age truly began. The ridge fell silent as Razor Claw and Bloodcrest stepped forward, each breath sharpening the tension hanging over the stone battlefield. Claws scraped rock as both leaders closed the distance, every step promising the violent reckoning that would decide the fate of both groups. Bloodcrest struck first, jaws crushing into Razor Claw's shoulder with brutal force that sent dust spiraling up through the cold red light. Using sheer power, Bloodcrest pulled Razor Claw sideways, dragging claws across stone as the entire ridge trembled from the violent tug. Razor Claw answered with a savage slash, carving deep into Bloodcrest's flank and turning rising dust crimson as the balance of the fight shifted. Bloodcrest staggered back, wounded and breathless, while Razor Claw advanced with a cold precision that signaled the turning tide of battle. A brick-red warrior rushed forward to aid Bloodcrest, only to be hurled off the ridge, its fall sending shockwaves through the southern ranks. The sudden loss shattered the southern formation, scattering younger fighters and leaving Bloodcrest exposed as panic rippled through the ridge. Bloodcrest looked back at the collapsing ranks, a single heartbeat of hesitation giving Razor Claw the opening needed to seize control. Razor Claw struck with explosive force, driving a crushing shoulder blow into Bloodcrest and sending the wounded leader skidding across stone. The southern line broke further as Razor Claw pressed forward, while northern warriors closed in, forming a tightening arc around the battlefield. Bloodcrest slipped on shattered rock as Razor Claw lunged in, the decisive strike hanging in the air like the final breath before collapse. The ridge shook as Bloodcrest charged with desperate fury, racing toward Razor Claw in a final attempt to turn the dying battle. Claws tore across stone as both leaders closed in, each movement heavier than the last breath of a fading age of dominance. Bloodcrest struck first, jaws crushing into Razor Claw's neck as dust burst upward in a violent cloud of red and ash. Locked in a brutal struggle, the two giants twisted across the stone, every impact cracking the ridge beneath their coiled bodies. Razor Claw carved deep into Bloodcrest's flank, a single devastating strike that turned the air crimson and staggered the wounded foe. Bloodcrest faltered as loose stone crumbled beneath its feet, and the ridge echoed with the sound of a battle tipping toward its end. Each clash pushed Bloodcrest closer to the edge, every breath turning sharper as the abyss below opened like the final boundary of fate. The leaders rose on hind legs, claws locking in desperate force as dust spiraled upward from the stone trembling beneath them. Razor Claw gathered its strength, lifting both hind legs in a sudden, explosive motion that crushed into Bloodcrest's chest. A second brutal kick drove through Bloodcrest's neck, sending a spray of crimson into the air as the ridge trembled beneath the blow. Bloodcrest staggered backward, claws slipping on shattered stone as the weight of defeat dragged its body toward the waiting abyss. The final moment came as Bloodcrest slid off the ridge, falling into the cold red mist below, while Razor Claw stood victorious above the abyss. The shattered ridge echoed with chaos as the surviving southern Utahraptor scattered in panic, fleeing the ruins of defeat. Wounded southern Utahraptors stumbled down the broken slope, abandoning the battlefield in a desperate rush to escape destruction. Fear surged as southern Utahraptor collided in retreat, each struggling to escape the collapsing order of their defeated pack. The last southern Utahraptor fled into the distance, leaving only drifting dust to mark the collapse of their shattered reign. Through the fading haze, northern Utahraptor emerged slowly, gathering as the surviving warriors returned to the ridge's center. The wounded northern Utahraptor stood tall despite deep scars, their steady breaths carrying the weight of the brutal victory. At their center stood Razor Claw, the northern leader marked by a long eye scar and a blood-stained form. Northern survivors approached with slow, deliberate steps, each lowering their stance in recognition of the strength that saved them. Razor Claw walked toward the cliff's edge, each step carving deep grooves into the fractured stone beneath the ridge. Below the cliffs, red mist and broken stone remained, a silent reminder of the southern rival Razor Claw cast into the abyss. Wind swept dust across Razor Claw's long eye scar, marking the survivor with the rising weight of an unspoken legend. Thus, Razor Claw, the scarred northern leader, became the shadow of the Red Cliffs, a name carried across generations. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps Animalverse bring more epic stories to life.